really an anxiety prone period that what am I doing? When will I get a job? And it was tough if I was going to sleep and I knew that I have at least sent a message to 30 people via email or LinkedIn. At least I have increased my chances by 1%. And that worked out for me. I'm currently working as a product manager at this company called Einstein Box. For those of you who might haven't heard of the brand, it's a D2C brand that makes science related and educational toys for children from the age of 6 to 14. But I set myself a small goal that this won't happen in a day. It might take 2 or 4 months. I'll just reach out to say 20 people on LinkedIn every day and 10 people on mail every day. That is just how it started off. So in an uncertain phase, grabbing onto some certainty keeps you going. But as it turned out, the people whom I reached out to didn't reply to me because of my CV. They replied to me because I was just there. So I think the first thing that HelloPM gave me was, I think, a solid support system in terms of both technical resources as well as a feeling that I'm not alone.
So what exactly you did continuously that you were not stopping, or what was the motivation here?
So I think the motivation was for me.
Story of one of our members at HelloPM. His journey from developer to product manager is something interesting and definitely helpful for everyone to know about how he navigated through various things. Hey Prabhav, how are you doing?
Yeah, Kash, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing amazing, man. And thank you for joining for this discussion and call today. We'd love to know a little bit about you before we get started with some interesting insights from your story.
Sure. And thank you for having me here. So I'll just start off with where I'm currently working at. So I'm currently working as a product manager at this company called Einstein Box. For those of you who might haven't heard of the brand, it's a D2C brand that makes science related and educational toys for children from the age of 6 to 14. And
Mhm.
we are majorly placed in e-commerce platforms, majorly Amazon, and we are delivering to India, US, Australia, UAE, and Europe. So I'm really glad to be part of a company that makes education a bit more interesting, especially for children. And before that, I was working as a senior developer at a company called Into IT, based out of Noida. It's a startup that deals with the intersection of data, networking, and using AI. So my role there was to leverage AI to make some interesting products to help navigate a ton of data that was coming through. Before that, I spent around 2.5 years working as a software developer at Jaguar Land Rover India. And there I was working in the testing team of the cars, and we wrote softwares to make that testing process more efficient. And before that, I passed out from my BTech in mechanical engineering in 2021 from IIT Delhi. So that has been my journey till now.
Thank you for sharing that. Curious to know why the transition to product management. What was the catalyst for thinking to get into this direction?
Okay. So to be honest, it has been a very gradual shift in my preferences and what I would see myself doing down the line. And it started off, I think, 2 or 3 years ago when I used to, while I was working as a software developer, I used to always be very curious about the how the other pillars of the company and of the product are working as well. It was a very gradual shift, I would say. And I found myself wanting to work at different places, collaborating with a lot of people, and being an individual contributor while it had its own ups. I really wanted to see how I would work in a more collaborative setting and working at the intersection of many pillars of the business. So that is how my curiosity about products spiked. And as I came to read about it more, talk to a little bit of my colleagues, and maybe browsing through the internet, just came to know more about the role, and it gave me that small push every now and then that this is something that I want to really try on as something I want to do full time. So that is how I transitioned. And after my previous stint, I was really motivated to make a full time career shift now. And that is how I just happened to go along with it.
Got it. So, when you decided that this is the pathway, let's say you want to get into product management, what all things did you actually do to make this transition happen for you? What all things you actually planned or executed?
Okay. Just a disclaimer that even though what I might say next would sound like a very solid proof plan and a very solid execution model, it was nothing like that. It was just navigating through the seas, and now it just seems like it was all coordinated. So I think firstly I started getting to know about the role and just talking to people around me. I think that really helped me a lot. And I was fortunate enough to have people nearby, friends who just speak to about them, those who had transitioned to product roles and what they are working on right now. And also,
Mhm.
I think many good resources on the internet too helped me out. So I think that was the first step. Second step was that, okay, now if I want to seriously transition, what are my odds that, given my current setting, what are the odds that I can land a PM role next? So at first, I was quite optimistic in that this is something that can usually transition to, because I was working in tech, so I know a good deal about how tech products work, and maybe that would be easier to get into product.
Mhm.
But with some tinkering around, I realized that I need a more solid proof plan for that. I need more planning around it. So I think that is how I decided that I wanted to commit to it in a way that has has some setting around it. I didn't know how to navigate it on my own. So that is how I came up towards HelloPM. I just got to know about it through the internet while exploring. And once I found that it was something that aligned with me, I joined the cohort. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence in the fact that this is something I can make happen now. I have a solid support system and I have resources. Of course, I have to work for it, but I just had that backup that we are part of something now, and I can do it in a more executioner way, in a way that is more proper, and I have experience to back that. So I think that was the second step. Now, third step was to actually get the stuff doing. And that started with, I think the first major step was overhauling my CV. And trust me, it takes a lot of effort, not to intimidate anyone, but I had my CV prepared for a developer role. And even I thought that it's like I'll just have to do minor tweaks here and there. But I went through so many iterations before I could get a reasonably good CV. Till now, it's not great, I feel. But I think that is something that takes time. And I think that is something you should be prepared for. And it's nothing to be intimidated by, but just keep doing it and keep getting reviews. I think that's really helpful because we really feel that now I there were times when I felt that now I've made the perfect CV after 1 week of effort, and I didn't really want to show it for feedback because I didn't want that critical feedback again. But we have to do it. So after that, I think a lot of uncertainty started, especially for me because I had decided to leave my job. Again, this is something I don't recommend, but it was some personal stuff and something just I'm just figuring that out still. But as it happened, to cut short, I was on my notice period and I knew that I had to make it quick. So that brought about some kind of uncertainty and urgency too. So next was to reach out to people and apply on job portals and everything. And I tried applying for job portals, all on LinkedIn, InstaHire, and all those 5 or 6 major portals, where I didn't seem to get a good response. So then I realized that cold reaching out is the way to go
Mhm.
because I don't really have a profile that someone would really pluck out of 1,000 applications in product. I don't have that kind of an experience on paper, even though I might have the know-how or some observational experience. So I decided to do the cold emailing route, and I think that again, so that how to go about it was something I'm really grateful to HelloPM for. We had a clear laid out strategy that this is how we cold email, this is the intensity, I should be prepared for setbacks, and this is how I follow up, this is how I make a portfolio. Even though I didn't make such a big portfolio, but I felt somewhat an increase in confidence knowing that there's a strategy out there that I just have to execute. I reached out to people on LinkedIn. I set myself a small goal. So this is after 1 month of figuring it out that I set myself a small goal that this won't happen in a day. It might take 2 or 4 months. I'll just reach out to say 20 people on LinkedIn every day and 10 people on mail every day. And that is just how it started off. And as I just kept on going, I think I might have sent out around 300 or so DMs and 150 or so mails. And that is how I landed up to 2 or 3 people who seemed to reply and were interested. And I was fortunate enough to have one of them call me for an interview, two of them rather. And that is how just things proceeded. And and once I had an interview lined up, again, it was an uncertain soup to be in because I didn't know how product interviews go. It was the first time I was doing one. I went till the final round of one such company, which I was really keen on joining, but it didn't happen. It was really disheartening, but again, we have to keep on going. So then came another company. So in this time, I really had to figure out how to portray myself, how to show my work ex. I think that was something that was super important. Knowing how to tell a story about my work ex and having a clear answer to why I want to move to a product role, because that is something that I think the people who are interviewing me really focus upon. I think these are things that really matter. So I had to polish upon that. That took some time and some mindset change as well to prepare myself to tell stories, to even like we are used to thinking of our work ex in one particular way, I feel. But to actually have a bird's eye view of that and to actually portray it in a way that is true and at the same time that aligns with what the job requires. So I think that is some kind of a smart work we should be able to do. And I think that really taught me a lot about my work ex looking back as well. So I think that's the fifth step of preparing for the interviews. And I was just fortunate enough to have one that went right, and the people were willing to give me a chance. And here I am.
That's nice. The way you have taken us through your journey, that's really interesting. Some areas you actually laid out some interesting pointers. I want to touch upon one of it, which is you said you started doing cold reach outs, right? And cold reach outs actually helped you. So this opportunity or the work that you're doing currently, the offer that you have received, was it through the cold email that you had sent or what was it?
Okay, so this particular one was a cold message I had sent out on LinkedIn. And so what I did was I was looking for people who are product managers or senior product managers at companies. And so I applied that filter on LinkedIn, and I also checked the filter for people who are actively hiring. So that gave me a list of people, and I had a Word document where I had 6 or 7 small write-ups which fit the LinkedIn word limit to suit whatever I want to send to each type of person I encountered. And that list kept on growing. It wasn't something that I started off at day one. I just kept on adding to it so that it's just easier for me to copy paste or modify only 10% of the message. So yeah, I found that person on LinkedIn. I just messaged him and he replied with a few questions and then it started.
So what was it, a job opening that you found and then you tried to look out for the right people and then you send the school message and then you got the interview call? What was it?
Actually, no, it was mostly around people who are PMs or senior PMs or group PMs who are hiring for people in their team. That is how I
Ah,
reached out.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So can you, even if you don't want to show, can you tell me what exactly did you write in that message, LinkedIn message?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are two types of messages. One is the message you send via the connection request. So that has a limit up to 300 words, I think. And once you are connected, that has a much longer limit. And so initially, since I didn't have a lot of connects in the product community, I had to go the first route, that is framing a message under 300 words so that they can at least accept my request and they know what I'm looking for. So I drafted a small message with the help of ChatGPT that this is what I want to portray. It had a few iterations because I had to really use that 300 word limit in a way that is not just, it had to be very clear and again, I think not desperate, and I think being confident. And I think again, this is something that HelloPM's resources help me out a bit to just understand how do we want to showcase ourselves to other people who are looking for maybe a person like me. So that had a few iterations, and it was nothing really, just a small intro about myself, what my work ex was, so that they know from which background I'm coming from. And there I made sure that I wasn't just telling my work ex, rather I was framing a short two-liner story around it, that what do I stand for and what do I bring, what have I done and what I might potentially bring to the table. For example, since I was a developer at Jaguar, right, and after that I was developing using AI. So I didn't just write that I'm a developer at Jaguar. I just wrote that I helped curate luxury experiences at Jaguar, right? So that is something that I actually did, but I think that is something that really appeals to a person reading it as well. So along those lines, and I had a quick one-liner about me that hey, this is me, and I have just worked here and there, and I'm really looking forward to explore product roles in your company. And if you have some roles or you're looking for someone, would you just let me know? That was the rough text I used. And similar one for DMs, but I think I could just add one more line about my work ex. That was a small change. That's all.
Got it. So you're saying that you have sent around 300 plus DMs and 100 plus
Yeah,
cold emails. And
I think.
what was that whole process like? Because when you start sending these messages and you don't get rewards or you don't get that kind of result you're expecting, it can take some level of mental, anxiety, hit you on certain levels that, hey, why is it not working? So what exactly did, like you did continuously that you were not stopping, or what was the motivation here?
So I think the motivation was for me that I really wanted to be in a product role for some time now, and it was just high time I get into one. Secondly, as I said, I had left my job. So I think that was a big kind of urgent flashlight for me. And I won't say I was consistently motivated, and I wasn't really, I was, for I think for 1 month, it was really uncertain, and it was really an anxiety prone period that what am I doing? When will I get a job? And it was tough, but I think as soon as I accepted that it is not something that I will get like this, I should be prepared for at least 2 months. I think that is something that making peace with it gave me that time to stay consistent. Before that, I was expecting immediate results. That why isn't this happening? But once I gave myself that time frame of 60 days, I came to terms with it. Then I was like, okay, what can I do now? And I think that is one day I just got the idea that, what if I just have a system around it that anyway, I won't ever be satisfied till I get a job, right? I won't go to sleep feeling great about myself. But what can I do to at least ensure a small win in my day? So that is how I came up with the idea of that I'll just limit myself to a number that I can be consistent with, but at the same time, it's not small enough to not give me results. So I just
Mm.
tried out, let's say, 20 DMs and 10 emails, and I just decided that I will stick with it for at least a month and for how long as I can. So that kind of gave me a little respite. I won't say a lot of respite, but again, it is some that's the best I could do that time. That if I was going to sleep and I knew that I have at least sent a message to 30 people via email or LinkedIn, at least I have increased my chances by 1%. And that worked out for me. And it was such a learning curve for me as well that even if it took me, I think, 1 month or so of doing this regularly, but it taught me a great deal about navigating uncertainty too. And I think
Mm.
that was super important in actually landing up a job.
That's nice to know you kept at it. If let's say if someone who is in the similar, let's say, process at the moment, and they are a developer or they're non-PM, right? And if you want to give them a plan, that, hey, these are the few things you should do if you want to get those interview calls,
Hmm.
right? We divide into two parts: interview calls and interview prep. But let's say
Right.
for the interview call, getting shortlisted, what will be your recommendation, or what will be the strategy that you will give them based on what has worked for you?
Okay. So purely based on what has worked for me, and I think, yeah. So I think that firstly, it's a lot about preparing yourself that you are fit for this role. I think believing in yourself is super important. That is something that took me time, and I actually saw results once I started believing in myself. So I think believing that even though you're a developer or you're not a product person, you can actually go into a product role. Once you are convinced, then only you can stay motivated to try to convince others that you are a good fit for that role. If you aren't convinced yourself, even if you get a call, I think it will be super tough to convince them. And
Mm.
so I think first is that. And alongside that, I think just keep reaching out to people. I think that's the one golden thing anyone should do. Just keep reaching out to people. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. But if even if you have a 1% chance, if you reach out to 1,000 people, that's 10 people who will reply to you positively. So I think
Mm.
that's the golden egg over here. And yeah, I think just and whatever you feel the need to, I think as you keep reaching out to people, you will have feedbacks about your process. No one will give that to you, but you will automatically get feedback. So, suppose you know that one type of message looks well. Suppose you send out a message one day, and after 5 days, you look at it and you're like, I think I can tweak it a bit here. I think there are a lot of tweaks you go through. So don't try to be perfect at the first stage. Even the doc that I prepared for reach outs had one small message at the start, and after 20 days, it had 8 messages segregated by this is for a
Mm.
PM, this is for a hiring manager, this is for an HR. So I think that really develops over time. And I think forming a system around it is super important because it's a very uncertain phase. So in an uncertain phase, grabbing onto some certainty keeps you going. So I think that worked out for me, particularly that I formed a certain system around it that at least I can go to sleep at night thinking that I did what I could do today. And so I think that is super important. And again, reach outs and having, I think CV, I would say it's a very important point. But I think don't concentrate on the CV too much before, and don't try to think that, okay, my CV is perfect, then only I reach out to people. I made that
Mm.
mistake in the first 20 or 30 days where I delayed reaching out. But as it turned out, the people whom I reached out to didn't reply to me because of my CV. They replied to me because I was just there. I had put in a message to them and then they wanted
Yeah.
to see my CV. And I think I always kept on thinking my CV is not perfect, CV is not perfect. But I think it's always good to just have keep updating your CV as you find tweaks and improvements, but don't stop reaching out to people. I think that's the one thing that worked for me.
Right. So to summarize, believe in yourself, reaching out to people. I think the reaching out part in your story has been a very important element, right? Those cold reach outs and not just depending on the traditional way to apply and wait for the job, the
Yeah,
companies to get back to you. That's something I believe if most of the people are doing correctly, if most of the people are actually giving it a little bit of more focus, it because everyone's knocking on one door, right? So it's like
exactly.
another door that you are knocking, and the chances are high here.
I think it takes some effort to get going, but I think once you cross that entry barrier and you have a system around it, you can just knock on more such less competitive doors. And I think that is somewhere I think so. We met also one day when India was playing the Champions Trophy final. So I think that really helped me. It was a tough conversation, but I think it helped me accept that knocking on one door where thousand other people are knocking won't really help me out. So we
Mm.
have to look for other more unfair
Uh,
advantages.
yeah, I do remember. I think it was our meetup time, like
Yes.
our HelloPM meetup that we had. And I
Yes.
think it was an interesting conversation where you discussed about what you were planning, what you were doing. And I think it is good, I think, in these kind of conversations when you get that kind of interaction happen.
Yeah.
Some things you pick up and some things you keep on doing. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's nice to see things working for you. I
Yeah.
think the day you mentioned or gave me the news, you're like, I want to say something. I'm like, yay, I know. I think this is a good news. I think I was like, oh, wow, like, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
I'm
well,
really excited to share that with you since you were always a part of my journey during the process in whatever way you could be. And I think you were the first person just from the community I told that, hey, I finally got that.
I know when I saw your message, I was like, yeah, this is some good news. That's great. So I would love to know a little bit you shared about what are the things you did. You mentioned that you joined HelloPM also as one of your lot of things that you did in this transition, but you also joined HelloPM. Can you take me through, let's say, few of the things that actually you did at HelloPM that helped you in this transition or is helping you when you're working as a PM?
Sure. So I think the first thing that HelloPM gave me was, I think, a solid support system in terms of both technical resources as well as a feeling that I'm a part of. I'm not alone, firstly, that I have people who have similar goals as me. And also I think mentors and a community that I really align with. Now what I mean by aligning is that firstly I found the way when I was just started, when I enrolled in the cohort or I just saw videos, the free resources available, I was really impressed by the clarity of thought and the amount of effort and breaking down the problems and just putting it out there that someone can understand. But I was also able to appreciate that this is something that comes from practice, experience, and the ability to break down problems to deliver it to someone who's reading it. So I think that really pulled me in toward Hello PM, that these are people I want to be near. I want to be around them. That's what I can learn from them. So that was the first step. The second step was that if I want to seriously transition into PM, I and at that time I didn't know all of what I know right now or what I experience right now. So I was really in the middle of nowhere. So I wanted that system around me to know that if I have people around me who can help me and if I'm willing to work for it, then I'll surely my chances would increase from let's say 20 to 70%. That's a big jump for me. So that confidence of the community and of the mentors around me was really important. I think thirdly, even I would say when I was doing the course material and I was going through the lectures and I started doing the assignments, even though I'm not really proud that I didn't complete all the course when I had to, but again, I'm not beating myself up for it, and I'm just appreciative of whatever I could get from it, from what I did. So I think that the quality of the learning was really good, and especially in terms of not just technical knowledge, but it was actually structured around achieving a goal. And the goal for most of us was, of course, learning, but a tangible outcome of that was to get into a PM role. And I think the course really did well in one thing that, in one thing out of among other things, that they really focus on getting a good outcome, and it was not just bombarding you with knowledge and just seeing where you get. So I think that practical strategies, for example, the cold reach out strategies, and to actually prepare my mind. So let's say if my mentors are saying that be prepared for 2 months of uncertainty, that gave me some validation that, if I'm doubting myself, they told me that it's 2 months of uncertainty, they have gone through it, and they so I can just trust on upon them and just go with it. So I think one major helping point was actually focusing on the tangible outcome and actually guiding one very meticulously and in a very practical way towards it. So that really helped me over there.
Got it. Also, what did you actually do to approach for PM interviews? Because I believe when you were working as a developer, or I mean, after that also, you would have not given any PM interviews. So, how
Right.
did you actually prepare for it with respect to, let's say, the top few things that you did?
So I remember when I had my first interview, I really didn't know how to approach. And I think the first level of understanding that I got was from, again, HelloPM's resources about how to approach an interview. That what do you need to, what are they looking for firstly, and what do you need to, how do I need to portray myself, and how to just present myself. So I think there were a lot of good pointers around it, which I read and understood, try to read it again and again as to what really entails. And that was one. And I started to then make some write-ups around my, let's say, experience and what are the kind of questions they can ask and what is the flow of a typical interview. I saw some videos, and then I just started writing down how I want to present myself, what kind of answers do I want to give, how do I want to frame my answers. So the content was already there with me. It is there with us.
Mm.
But how to say that content, I realized mattered around 90%, if not 95. So that is something I really worked on for the interviews. And again, I was really fortunate to have people around me. For example, my brother, he is also working in a product role. So he already had that kind of a mindset approach towards interviews. So he kept on giving me nuggets. So I think these two were the major helpful points for me. One is the Hello PM community and resources. And I also remember having a mock interview with you, Akash, before one of my interviews. So that also gave me firstly a reality check that where possibly I could go wrong, and so that I could spend the next 2 days working on that. And yeah, also just knowing that I have to work on these things, knowing that I have to work on my storytelling, knowing that I have to work on looking at the JD first and then seeing how I want to frame my answer. So it was a very, I would say, strategic approach to interviews. And it was very meticulously laid out in the resources that I read. So I think that is something I'm really grateful for. And that really helped me out.
Great. I think happy to know that you actually had various areas where you focused on, and a brother who is having a product, let's say, experience, that definitely is an add-on to anyone.
Yeah, 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 definitely it is.
It's like you can do as many mock interviews with him directly.
Yeah. Even having a short mock interview while having dinner where I get a reality check that
Yeah.
I don't know this.
And let's do a design question now.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. And then brothers are gonna be more brutal with reviews. So yeah, I think they will go
Yeah, of
very,
course.
you know, nice.
Yeah, but they're
Great.
like, is this how you will crack an interview? Is this how you portray yourself? Will being so less confident help you? So these were the kind of points I received. Yeah.
Got it. I think there's a lot of, let's say, interesting things in this pointers that you have laid down today in our conversation. If you have to, let's say when we are wrapping up this call now, if you have to share top three things, it could be from aspects of mental clarity, anything, or approach, anything. Top three suggestions or recommendations someone should have when navigating into product management, what will it be?
Okay. I'm assuming people are navigating from some work to a product role. And since I'm coming from a non-product background, so I would want to make my 3 pointers around that. I think firstly is having a really solid product perspective of your work, be it in whatever field, UI, UX, development, QA, or anything under the roof. I think having a perspective on how to portray that experience and that required me to actually learn more. I had to reach out to people from my previous experience to talk to them about, okay, how did this actually work, why did we do this. So I think one is absolutely getting very clear on what you did at your current or previous work experience, why you did that. And basically, imagine that you're a product person at a given company, right? And you decide that this is what we're going to build. So if you're a developer, you actually build that stuff. But the product person in your team or in your firm would have thought about, why are we building this? What are we building it for? Whom are we building it for? What are some challenges that we can have? What are some trade-offs that we are making? So I think answer those 5 or 6 questions about yourself and be really clear about those. And that may require you to go back to what you did again, sit on it, spend few hours around it. But I think that is super important, because when you're telling about your work experience in a product interview, they're not interested which language you use to write a particular piece of product feature, but they'll want to know what feature you built, why you built it, what do you think was the need for it, what were some challenges, and so on. I think that is one. This will also give you the confidence that you are ready for a product job. And that brings me to point number two, is actually believing that you deserve a product role. And I think that is something that you can go under the carpet thinking that you have to skill up, you have to learn this, you have to learn that before you actually are ready for a product role. But it's a lot about confidence and asking, being curious about what's happening in a business, and just asking yourself that questions and trying to answer them. Now you have a lot of internet and AI too, so that's really helpful. I think point number three is reaching out for me. And you might try going the job portals route as well. I also did that, but I think the overall essence is to just being at the right place at a possible right time, because everyone out there is looking for good people who are curious to learn and curious to work. If you're really curious about shifting to products, and if you're coming from a non-product role, that means you're passionate about something. Again, I think that's a 90% win over the other population around you. You're actually passionate about going out of your comfort zone and doing something that is out of the conventional route. So you are anyway one step ahead of your peer group, that you are actively choosing to go for a new role. So I think back yourself up for that, and people really want that. If suppose imagine you are a person hiring for someone in your team with whom you want to work with. If you know that person is just looking for a job change, or that person is looking for a job change out of a sheer passion to work in that role, even though they come from a different work role, I think you will also want to place your bets on the other person. So I think just keep on reaching out and assume it will be a no. So don't feel that, oh, I got so many no's. Just try to count the yeses, and even three yeses are a big plus. So I think, yeah,
Yes.
that's my 3 pointers.
Yeah, I think in your case it was two yeses and one conversion. So I think that itself was like a full change of story for you now. Great. I think it's really wonderful that you gave your time today and shared everything that you did today. And we wish you all the best for, let's say, your journey going ahead. And you are part of our LM community, and we'll be in touch. And yeah, wish you all the best.
Of course, thank you. And I'm really looking forward to staying in touch. I think even more now, because now that I'm in a product role, I would love to be more around product people and actually spending time in the technical details of it as well. So I think I'm really looking forward to it, and it was a pleasure
Thank
doing
you.
this.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhav. Take care. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Bye. Take care.